So I'll start off by introducing myself. My name's Hannah. I've been with Strictly Recruitment for 3-4 years. I should probably know this off the top of my head. But I've been in recruitment for about 8 years overall now. And throughout my time in recruitment, I've seen many large corporate businesses go through mass redundancies, obviously a bit different to what's happening in the world at the moment. But I've dealt with many candidates that have gone through this. As a recruitment agency or as a recruitment agent, it's very much part of our role as well to give people advice and all the knowledge that they need. And that's why we want to start running these webinars, hopefully weekly, just to really give people the chance to ask us questions as well, because we can give lots of tips and advice, but there's probably things that you're going to want to know. So yeah, Sophie, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Sophie. I've been with Strictly Recruitment now for about 4.5 years. I think I'm actually one of the longest members of Strictly. I've done recruitment for about 12 years now, but again, first time we've experienced anything like this, but hopefully, our professional advice can help you guys as much as possible. So yeah, me and Hannah have put together some advice for you all, which we really hope helps you. We really do feel for you guys, obviously being at the forefront of what is currently a really candidate heavy market. So we endeavour to help you guys put yourself at the best, opportunity as possible to, be successful in getting a new role. So the first bit of advice I would like to give you is to always follow up with applications. So if you find yourself just clicking away, not even realise what roles you're actually applying for, try and sort of slow the pace down and put together a list of the firms that you are applying to and the agencies that you're registering with as well, because the amount of times us as agents call you, you might not even be aware of who we are, but yet you've registered with us, a couple of weeks back or whatnot. So put yourself together a list of agents you've registered with, businesses that you've applied to, and always follow up with those applications. It's really beneficial to put yourself on the radar of those individuals, and maybe in a couple of days' time, just find out where your application is on the list. Have you made the short list? Just be a name and be a voice, and not just a sort of application that's gone through there. So we definitely think,
I think adding on to that, it's really tough because there are hundreds and hundreds of people at the moment applying to the same adverts that are on job boards and so on. And, we can say that when we put a job on to, let's say, Reed, we may get 1,000, if not more, applications at the moment.
Definitely.
Yeah. And it may take us only going through 100 CVs to find 4 or 5 people that are spot on for the role that we want to send over to our client. And it's the same for when you're an internal recruiter. They'll put an advert up and they may only go through the first quarter before they find a good number of people that they can send over to the hiring manager. Now what can then happen is all of the CVs prior to that, unfortunately, either aren't reviewed or I suppose get lost. So if you're applying to a job online or you're sending your CV to a job that's through an agency, always follow up with a call. And I know that is so much easier said than done, because part of our job is trying to get hold of internal recruitment people to build our business development as well, and we know it can be a nightmare to get hold of people. But often the receptionist will give you an email address, or online is just like a generic info email address, and if you can go on LinkedIn and find out who the recruitment person is of that business, just put for the attention of their name, attach your CV and just say to them, look, I've applied to this role online. I understand that I'm going to be one of many applicants at the moment, so I just wanted to send you a personal email to address my interest. And you can even list, these are the key reasons why I feel I'm suitable for your role, and put your key skills on there as well. And it just kind of gets your application that one step closer than it would have, just applying to the job online where your CV may not even be seen. If you can get through to them on the phone, then happy days. It just makes you become, I suppose, a little bit more memorable in that aspect. So just always make sure that you're following up applications with a call or an email to the agency or the employer. So my first piece of advice would really be And it's making sure that basically every single system that you're using or package is listed on your CV. And I think this is really, really important when it comes to office support recruitment specifically. We speak to so many candidates who, once we've registered them, they say, yeah, you know, I've got really strong Excel skills, I've used this particular document system, but it's not on their CV. And where this creates a problem is, as a recruiter, again, whether it be an internal recruiter or an agency recruiter, if we get a job through and they're looking for someone that specifically use, let's say, Adderant for billing, what we'll do is we will go onto these job boards. Let's say it's Reed, for example, and we'll type in that we're looking for a personal assistant or an office manager and so on, and then we'll put the word Adderant with it as well. Now, if Adderant isn't then listed on your CV, you're not going to come up on that search, which means you're really kind of putting yourself at risk of not being seen for the right types of roles. So even if it's things like having advanced Word or PowerPoint, just make sure that it is on your CV, and it should really increase your chances of being called for particular roles. I would say 80% of roles that come through now, there's always some sort of specific system or MS package that they're going to want you to have used. So it's really, really important just to make sure that everything is properly listed on there, to ensure that your CV is going to come up every time that someone's looking for someone that has experience using something.
The employer is more inclined to assume that you haven't got it or haven't used it as well if you haven't put it on there. So just show off every single skill that you've got on your CV for sure, definitely.
Because it comes down to speed a lot of the time, with recruitment from agency and internal as well. So this is why these Boolean searches, which is what they're called, have been created with job boards, so that you can really kind of specify your search so that only CVs of the exact system, skills and so on come up. So yeah, just make sure that's on there. So I'll let you go on to your...
definitely. So this is actually my favourite. This is actually my favourite piece of advice. It's not for everybody, but it definitely will enhance your opportunity at getting in front of the employer. So video introductions. We've actually trying to, endeavoured this, encourage this quite some time now, but we encourage it more so, at this crucial time. We recommend spending about 30 seconds to a minute videoing yourself, just introducing yourself, who you are, what you're all about, what job you're looking for. I'd even list a couple of your strengths, just show a bit of a personality, become a character. You can either get somebody to film this for you at home, or you can get your agent to do that. We're more than happy to do that for you here. That's actually something we put in place with our registrations quite some time ago now. Obviously be smartly presented, articulate yourself well, and just show off what you're all about, and copy that link from Dropbox onto your CV. That way you're not just your piece of paper. If the employee clicks on your link and thinks that you're exactly what they're looking for, great team fit, confident, you're more inclined to get in front of the employer, for sure. And it's not common either. Not everyone is doing this. So if you're one of 50 people that's done a video link, I can pretty much guarantee you will get in front of the employer as opposed to the other candidates, of course, if you are relevant for the role. But yeah, I definitely encourage that for sure. If you need any further, if you need any help with that, we're happy to do that for you here. We encourage that.
We can send through a link to Dropbox and stuff with like a step-by-step of how to kind of turn those videos into links and stuff as well. And just adding to that, I think that it really is an important thing to do at the moment, because again, it comes back to there being so many people applying for jobs at the moment that once they see this video link, you kind of almost become more of a character rather than just a piece of paper, just a CV. And I think it's also really useful when there's some candidates that have CVs that really, I suppose, don't sell themselves and their experience sometimes. And sometimes it's quite hard to explain, I don't know, a gap on a CV, or while you're looking to move industries, or why you want to apply for that particular role. So having that as a video link on the top of your CV It just kind of clears a lot of things up for the people that are viewing it already. And I mean, the success rate that we have seen from this
proven successful.
Huge. Yeah, we did a huge
especially
project.
if you're a client facing PA. I mean, look, if you appear on the screen and you're suited and booted and everything, you're more inclined to get in front of the partners and everything, definitely. They're going to take more of a risk of interviewing you than somebody who hasn't necessarily showcased what they're all about. So we encourage it. Sure. Yeah,
it's almost that you've just again gone that step further to allow them to know you and what you're all about. Obviously it's not as far as a first stage interview, but it just kind of gives you that edge over other candidates, and we are seeing more and more of it happen. So the quicker you can get that on your CV, definitely, hopefully you'll be 1 or 2 steps ahead of other people. So the next sort of tip advice I would give is, this is a bit of a bugbear of mine because I mainly do temporary recruitment. So when I'm searching for candidates, I need people that are immediately available 99% of the time. So making sure that it is super, super, super clear on your CV that you are immediately available, or if you are unfortunately, being made redundant, that you do have the end date and it's explained on your CV that you are going to be immediately available at some point. Again, this comes back to when we're searching on job boards and so on. I'll go on there and you can actually filter on Read and so on to just see immediately available candidates, but that it's not always the most effective. But when I'm looking through CVs, if I see a CV of, let's say it's a PA and it says, currently working to date, I will assume that person is still in a permanent role and they're not going to be available for anything that's to start quite soon. So make sure it's clear on there. I mean, even at the top of your CV, above where your name is, just put immediately available on there. And again, if it's an internal recruiter, it can be the same case for them as well. If they've got 100 applicants they're going through and they're just looking for somebody immediately available, but on your CV it says to present, it's more than likely they're not going to call you. Again, for speed reasons, they just need to speak to people that are going to be able to start in the next day or 2. So it's really, really important to make sure that it's nice and clear on your CV.
Well, this is a bugbear of mine. Errors on a CV. You'll be surprised at how many errors we come across on a CV. As you can appreciate, you're not putting yourself in exactly the best position if you're applying to a PA or an office management role, but naturally there are riddled, your CV's riddled with errors. So as much as we are human, we make typos. It is your responsibility to proofread the CV and ensure that it goes out correctly. Grammar, formatting, spelling, it all falls under, sort of, how we kind of look at, your skill set. So we will naturally assume that you're not advanced enough to do the role if your CV has errors in it. So just ensure that you proofread your CV, because again, we all get caught up, typos and all the rest of it, but proofread your CV 3 or 4 times and ensure that it is correct when it goes out to the employer and the recruiter, of course, because we're not inclined to shortlist you if we feel like you're not advanced enough to do the role. I think
I'd say there's probably a little more flexibility on the agency side of things, because we do spend a lot of time doing CVs up and formatting them to perfection, but that's because we know the standards of the clients that we work with, which sometimes candidates potentially won't know. We do have some clients that honestly, if there is one comma in the wrong place, the CV won't get viewed, unfortunately. So it's essential that you're just making sure that everything is spot on. And if it is something you struggle with, which is completely understandable, I can't spell to save my life, call your recruiter and say to them, would you mind just spending 5 minutes with me running through this. With CVs, I think there is no wrong or right way to how they should look generally. However, for office support, they don't want pictures on it, they don't want colours and so on. They just like, black and white, bullet pointed, clear, no waffling. That's a key thing for a successful CV within this market. So that takes us on to our next point of just making sure that you're really, really open to temp and contract work as well. Now, I speak to so many candidates and those that have been made redundant as well, who say, no, I don't want to look at anything temp or contract. My key focus at the moment is a permanent role. you can kind of get yourself caught up a bit there, because majority of the time when we place somebody into a temporary role or a fixed term contract role, it ends up moving into a permanent position. And with temporary roles especially, I think it's such a brilliant opportunity to get a foot in the door to a company so quickly. And as long as you are, you know, good at your job and you prove yourself and so on, it's likely that even if it's not that role that they can move you into on a permanent basis, that they will discuss other roles of you within the business. So just be really open-minded. I think, you know, now more than ever with everything that's going on, we may potentially from January onwards see a big increase in temporary and contract works as well, jobs as well, because companies may not necessarily be able to commit to permanent employment. Now that may not be the case. It may, you know, stay how it is, and we'll still see quite a few permanent roles coming through. But I just think it's really important to be open to temp to perm contract roles as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think just to finish that off, just tailoring your CV to the role that you are applying for. There is no harm in having 2 or 3 versions of your CV. If you're interested in 2 or 3 different jobs, that's absolutely fine. Just make sure that you're not introducing yourself as an office manager when you're maybe applying for, you know, a sole PA position, because naturally they will prioritise PAs that are dedicated to, you know, being a PA forevermore. So we find that actually quite common, that maybe a legal secretary will apply to, you know, an office manager role, but their bio introduces them as a legal secretary with ambitions to you know, progress into a legal EA, etc. So just make sure that, you know, you have 2 or 3 versions of your CV and you are applying to the right role with the right CV, because again, that can be detrimental to your application if you're sort of, you know, pursuing one role but your CV says that you're something else.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah,
I'd say have more than 2 or 3. I think it's important, again, especially the way the job market is at the moment, because there is so much competition.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to tweak your CV to every single role that you're sending it for. And it really is just a case of looking at that job description online, looking at those key skills and just making sure that what they're asking for is on your CV. And then, you know, there's no reason, if you're ticking all of the boxes for them, then there's no reason they shouldn't bring you in for an interview. So the next sort of piece of advice or tip I would give is just to really use any spare time that you have to make sure that you're updating your skills. We speak to a lot of people that have been in like a PA job or so on for 15, 20 years for the same company, and they've come out of this and they feel a bit lost because things have changed, systems have changed. All companies use, I mean, some of them use similar systems, but majority of companies, you have different processes, different systems, and jobs want different things now. Now, Excel, I think, is one of the key things to make sure that you're, you know, you don't need to be advanced in it, unless you're going to go into a job that is like really heavily Excel based. They're all like accounts project type roles, but making sure that you can work your way around a spreadsheet and so on is really important now, because I would say at least 60% of the roles that we get through now require decent Excel skills. I mean, the most common ones are your Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, which I think majority of people that are in an office support role would be using anyway. But PowerPoint maybe not so much, actually. There's some positions where we require it, but not all of them. Yeah, but yeah, just using your time well to update your skills relevantly. There's different sorts of things you can do online, like Quest courses and so on. You know, if you want to go down the legal secretary route, then it could be worth looking at your Silex course. We will follow up this with an email to everyone. We'll have obviously the link to the Dropbox to do the video calls, but we'll also put some bits on there about testing. But there's a website that we use. I can't think of the name off the top of my head because we've not used it in so long now, but you can practice different things like typing, spelling, but I think you can also do Excel. Word and so on. So we can send those links around. I mean, most of them are free that you get online now anyway. I think typing speed as well is one to make sure that you're, you know, really up to scratch with. The majority of the clients that we work with, they do put you through testing before being brought in for an interview, and typing speeds now, they're expected around at least 60 for a lot of
55 minimum.
Yeah, 50, 55 I'd say is the average, but they're usually wanting 60 and above. So again, you know, just using your time efficiently to make sure that your skills are really up to date will again just kind of, you know, you'll have that edge over the other candidates that have, you know, not really tried to update their skills. Sophie, have you got anything else to add in terms
I actually nearly missed off one of my points there. Again, it's really simple, but you know, it's gonna be what gets you the phone call basically. If your contact details are incorrect on your CV, then again, you know, how do you expect to get called? So just make sure that if you've changed your mobile number, changed your address, make sure that is all, you know, all put on your CV. Again, you know, you're not going to come up on our searches if maybe you've moved away from London or you've moved closer to London. So we kind of search around sort of, you know, 20 miles radius outside of London. So, you know, we need to ensure your address is, you know, correct. And of course, your number's correct as well. So
it sounds silly and we can laugh about it, but honestly, you'd be surprised the amount of candidates we go through on job boards, and you call them and we can't get through to them, and then you email and they say, oh, actually, I'd updated my number, I just forgot to put it on there. And you know, if you've got people from not recruitment companies, but like, you know, big businesses, internal recruitment companies calling you, you're not going to be wanting to miss those calls. So yeah, just making sure that everything like that is up to date. Okay, brilliant. So look, again, we will follow this up with an email of our key tips and so on, because we're going to make a document around it. However, we want to give you guys the opportunity to ask any questions that you may have. We have already got quite a few questions through from the registration link, but feel free while we're going through the first couple to put any questions that you may have into the live chat as well, and we'll make sure that they get answered. So right, okay, if we just start going through some of them that you guys have already sent through. So I've got one here. The first one we've got is, I have applied to heaps of job adverts and not heard anything back. Could it be that my CV isn't even being viewed? So this takes me back to, I think, one of the first tips that we gave in regards to making sure that you are following up with a call or even an email to the company or agency, because yes, it is likely that it's not being viewed, just purely down to the fact that there are so many candidates applying to jobs at the moment. I put an administration one up a few weeks ago, and I mean, I think it got over like 3,000-4,000 responses to it. Not all of them were relevant candidates, but you know that there is still competition out there, so it is likely that that's happening. So if you can, just make sure that you are following up your applications with a call or an email. It honestly, it's so important, and I think if you can do that, you will see an increase in the responses, even if it's a response from the company saying, you know, unfortunately your application wasn't successful. At least you can get some sort of feedback from them, hopefully, as well, and then work on that for your next applications. We do understand that it is frustrating when you don't always get feedback on, well, interviews, let alone applications as well. But with this market and how busy it is on the candidate side, it isn't always possible for companies and recruiters to be able to do it, just because of the mass volume of applications. There are systems that are created where you can almost receive like an automated response, but if you really want some specific feedback as to why your CV is not being taken through, again, call the company, call the agency, and they should be able to give you that information. Do you want to do the question, Sophie, that's on the list?
So one of the questions I've got was, do all office support jobs want you to have strong Excel skills now as I see this on so many job adverts? So I think that's just sort of reiterating what Hannah mentioned earlier. Yes, Excel is now a very common skill set to have, especially as the PA roles evolve over time. They're quite getting involved with more sort of accounts and finance duties, and this just again puts you in a better better place to obviously secure the role if you are advanced or at least intermediate with your Microsoft packages. It kind of boils down to being tested on site as well. A number of law firms will test you on your Microsoft packages on site. And again, if you're competing against somebody and you are neck and neck at the final stages of an interview, it may boil down to your test results. So yeah, I would strongly recommend, building up your skills around Microsoft, whether it be a Connexa test, an IQX test. Us as an agency are more than happy to send you those tests and obviously provide you feedback on your results as well. But not just Excel. I think, put yourself in a strong position around your Microsoft packages. But yes, Excel would be at least intermediate level. So if you are finding that you're really weak on Excel, definitely boost that in practice for sure. Definitely.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
So the next question we have here is, would you recommend being with a select few agencies or registering to as many agencies as possible? Okay, so if this question came to me pre this shambles that we're in this year, my advice to people has always been just be with 2 or 3 select agencies.
Yeah.
The reason I would have said that back then was because there were a lot of jobs on the market. If you're a candidate that's registered with 20 agencies, it's more than likely that 2, 3, even 4 of those agencies would cross over with the same roles. You end up getting called about the same position. Sometimes, as I understand that, I've been in this position before, it can be really overwhelming when you've got lots of people calling about the same roles and you almost forget what agencies called you about what. Sometimes we find that candidates kind of almost sometimes forget and have given representation to 2 agencies to send their CV, and it can all get a bit muddled up, and then the company that has got the job on has then received the CV from 2 or 3 different agencies. But given these circumstances where there's not as many jobs on the market, and it feels weird saying this as a recruitment agent, but I would advise being registered with as many as you can throughout this.
Yeah.
That's just purely because not all roles are advertised online. So when it's a candidate driven market, there really isn't always the need to put the adverts for jobs online because agencies have so many candidates looking for work on their database. So it may be that these agencies have jobs that just aren't visible. So putting yourself out there and being registered with as many as possible is really, really, really important throughout this. I spoke to a candidate a couple of weeks ago who said, I'm really struggling to find work at the moment. I'm registered with yourself and one other agency, and I said a lot of the time that is why, because you need to be putting yourself out there more. So yeah, as many agencies as you can, as many job applications as you can. It almost becomes a bit of a numbers game, and yeah, the more you're putting yourself out there, the more chances you've got of receiving a call from somebody. Soph, do you want to go on to the next question?
Yeah, okay. So another one I've received is, I've been out of work for a year now, and I feel like the longer I'm unemployed, the harder it is to get a job. What advice do you give those with gaps on a CV? I think Hannah can vouch for this. I think interim temp work is definitely what's going to maintain your skill set and show the employer that you're doing anything to keep yourself employed, and keep yourself motivated. So we obviously appreciate it's really difficult for you guys to go straight to and from work all the time. So don't be afraid to do interim temp work. As Hannah mentioned before, this can lead on to longer contracts, if not permanent roles. It gives yourself the opportunity to learn new things, adapt to new environments, which makes you then confident to go on to your next post as well. So interim temp work is definitely a good way to close off the gap on your CV. Again, it just maintains your skills and can boost your confidence as well, because when you are out of work for a long time, obviously your confidence does deteriorate. So put yourself in a position to just keep yourself employed, not just for financial reasons, but for your mental health as well. Especially at a time like this, I think people are going to think outside the box and think, hey, this is a crucial time in the economy. So work is work, essentially. So yeah, definitely.
I mean, sorry, I don't know who actually sent that question through, but if you meant more in terms of how do you explain it on your CV?
Right.
Then I think honesty really is the best policy with this, because I've met candidates before who have almost been afraid of showing a gap on their CV, so haven't been as honest with the dates and so on. If it's obviously a gap from the start of this year onwards, then obviously, you know, the
That's
pandemic
explained.
is your
You
reason,
can
it's
explain,
explained. But we've met candidates in the past who have been out of work for a year for all different reasons, really, you know, that they've potentially left a job, was meant to start another one, but that job was pulled. You could put that on there. They've gone off traveling, you know, there's all different reasons. It just needs to be stated on there. If it really is a case of I just haven't been able to secure a role, it's fine. I think you need to be honest. When people start to kind of cover up gaps and stuff, that's when there becomes issues, and especially when it comes through to referencing and so on, when you do secure a role. Okay, so we have we've got a couple of things that have come up in the chat. Vera, yeah, that's fine. I'll pop you over. I'll put my email address on here if you don't already have my email, and you can send your CV through to me. I'll definitely take a look over it for you. Olga, so how employers nowadays react on the step off from the chosen career path. For example, I was a GD manager in Russia, then I moved back to the UK and can't find the same position. Okay, yeah, so we meet a lot of candidates that have come from like quite a senior level and struggle to find another role at that level, and they say, well, can I just take on some admin work in the meantime? Is it going to look detrimental to my CV? I don't necessarily think it does if you're in a situation like this, when, you know, the job market is so different and there's hardly anything out there. It really depends what type of role that you want to step into. We see people go from, you know, office manager to PA to admin, because there is big links between all of them. I think if you're going from design and development into HR, okay, so it's organizational design and development. No, I mean, I don't, as long as you're making it clear on your CV that you have a similar skill set. And I think in these instances, a cover sheet really, really helps, because it gives you the opportunity to explain why you want to move from one job title into another. Just make that clear on there. I think in those instances as well, going through a recruitment agency does sometimes help, because we can be that voice for you when applying for roles and explain, right, we've got this person who has done X, Y, and Z. However, we feel they're going to be suitable for this role because they have these transferable skills and this is what they're looking to get into in the interim. But I think it will very much be a role by role basis with that. Tatiana, yes, of course, yeah, we can send that through. Oh, brilliant, thanks. Holly's put our email addresses in there. Yeah, anyone that wants us to have a look over their CV, please feel free to send it over and we can give any advice or tips. We've got a couple more questions here. So someone asked, how are interviews being conducted at the moment? Good question. Every company is doing different things, if I'm completely honest. I had someone go in for a face-to-face interview a couple of weeks ago, distancing measures in place and so on, and the company did of course ask beforehand, is this person happy to come in and meet with us? And this candidate was. They actually felt like they would interview better face to face than what they would have on a video interview, which I completely get. I do think that on a video
build
interview,
a rapport better.
It's just a bit odd, I suppose. But then you wouldn't be able to shake someone's hand at the moment anyway. So little things like that make the difference of a face-to-face interview or a video interview don't actually matter at the moment anyway.
Whatever you feel comfortable with, but the company will accommodate either way.
Majority of companies are doing video interviews because they're not in the offices. We started to see, I'd say about a month ago, a bit of an increase of companies saying, oh, you know, let's bring them in face-to-face for an interview. And then obviously Boris did the next announcement of, no, actually, let's, you know, everyone work from home or whatever. And we've seen again a bit of a decrease in that, and now people are actually going back to video interviews again. I think it will become the new norm because it is easier to schedule video interviews than it is to get somebody into an office, you know, with travel and so on, especially, you know, people that have got other commitments, children and so on. It's not always easy to get out of the house to an interview. So I think the companies that would have seen a success rate in how many interviews they can get booked in will start using video interviews as a method moving forwards. there's pros and cons to it, if I'm honest. I personally think that you are better to meet with a company face to face.
Yeah, I agree.
But I do think that this is going to become the new norm now. Sophie, I think we've got one left on there.
Yeah, so one of the questions were, are all roles going to be working from home for the foreseeable? So again, that's another tricky one. I think every company is different at the moment. And as we're aware, new restrictions are coming in every day. So, I mean, we've got a mixed bag of clients at the moment that are bringing their employees into the office. Again, you know, keeping all the health and safety regulations in place. But a lot of our candidates as well are currently working from home for our clients as well. So it depends the size of the business, to be completely honest with you. And you know, if they've got the capability to, you know, sort of manage a successful function from home as well. So every company is completely different, but I am seeing a lot of roles working from home at the moment, but that could change, you know, coming into the new year, where they want to create the atmosphere back in the offices again. So
I think at the moment it's too much of a risk for companies to say, your job's going to be starting in the office. And I think that they know that majority of candidates wouldn't feel comfortable, you know, going back into an office, especially if it's a huge, you know, corporate office of hundreds of people. You know, there's only so many people that you can now actually fit into an office space, bearing in mind, you know, majority of desks you need to have one empty and so on.
The employers are leaving that, you know, in the hands of the employer and choosing what they, you know,
we've got a few jobs at the moment. They're quite specialist positions, but they have said that there is the opportunity to go into, if you just have to book your desk up 24 hours in advance and so on. But I mean, I can't see roles starting in the office until there's a vaccine in place and so on, because companies need to feel confident that they've got all the right measures in place, that there is going to be a much less, you know, risk of things spreading in the office and so on.
For sure, definitely.
So does anyone else have any more questions that they want to put into the live
and if
chat?
anyone would like you know, a confidential chat outside of here, we're both available to have a conversation, just to reiterate anything that we've spoken about today.
Absolutely. And we're going to try and, like I said, do these weekly. Based around different things. So some specifically on CV writing and tips. You know, we would welcome any ideas if you guys want us to do a webinar based on something specific. Maybe it will be around the training courses and so on. It's something that we're more than happy to help with.
Definitely.
Give it a couple more minutes just in case anyone's got anything to put in here. And just to kind of really wrap this up as well, we do understand how hard this situation is. You know, my directors, they've been through the last 10 years ago recession with redundancies and so on, but as it stands, I don't think anything compares to what is going on at the moment, because there is, you know, there's so much uncertainty. We get how tough it is, but you just need to try and stay as positive as possible, as active as possible. Just get yourself out there as much as you can, apply to as many roles as you can. Call recruiters constantly, you know, even if it's not about a job that they've got, if you need advice on something, we've got lots of documents on interview tips, we've got a couple of video links we've created as well on key interview tips. So if you need things like that, feel free to give me and Sophie a call.
Absolutely, we're here for you, you know, obviously throughout this whole process, even if it means just a little, you know, pick me up confidence call, we're happy to do that.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people are already aware of the support page that our director Paul runs, which is the Business Support Network. If you're not aware of it, then type it in. I think there's a Facebook page, obviously it's on LinkedIn as well. And there's lots of talks from professionals on there. So, you know, really successful PAs, EAs, HR people that work for top corporate and professional services businesses go on there and do chats as well. It's coaches, super useful.
Everything.
There's a lot coming up as well over the next couple of months in regards to you know, confidence things as well. So it's definitely worth making sure that you're part of the Business Support Network, and we'll be popping up in there every now and again. Okay, look guys, if anyone does have any questions, you know, our email addresses are in the chat. Quickly write that down. Feel free to get in touch with us. I'm sure we will have majority of the people's CVs that are in on this, but if we don't, then feel free to send them through. We'll add them to our database. But no, a massive thank you from both myself and Sophie for
thank you for joining us today.
yeah, taking the time to listen to what we have to say. And just remind you, like we said, if you want any specific webinars created on anything, you know, to be tailored around it, that's absolutely fine. We can do it. All right.
All right, guys. Take care then. Best of luck. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.